Questions orales. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
From Regina Capel.
After 9 years of NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up. And Canadians are suffering. And the Liberals look around the country and they see tent cities popping up in our communities. They see millions lining up at food banks and families falling further and further into debt. And what do they think is the cause of all these problems? That Canadians aren't paying enough in taxes. That must be why they've already hiked the carbon tax 5 times and why they're going to hike it to 61 cents a litre. How can making everything more expensive provide any relief for Canadians?
Exactly.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I am glad that the Conservatives are finally talking about the economy because it gives me a chance to highlight some good economic news we've had. Last week, we learned that inflation in August was at 2%. In fact, for all of this year, inflation has been within the Bank of Canada's target range. That means interest rates are coming down. Meanwhile, wages have been outpacing inflation for 19 months in a row. But the Conservatives don't like to talk about that because good news for Canadians is bad news.
Yeah, exactly.
The Honourable Member from Regina Capel.
She can tell all the people lining up at food banks that they've never had it so good, and she knows that prices are not coming down. She also knows that her carbon tax won't stop a single forest fire or flood. They've admitted that. So Canadians get the brutal double whammy of all the extra costs associated with natural disasters, plus the carbon tax on top of it. And now the NDP leader is trying to pull off another stunt. He's trying to fool Canadians that he's got some new position on the carbon tax. In reality, he loves it. He's voted for it 24 times. If they're so sure that Canadians love their carbon tax, why don't they take it to the Canadian people and let them decide in a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, all these Conservatives know how to do is talk Canada down. And you know why that is? It's because they don't want Canadians to ask themselves what the Conservatives really stand for. That's because the Conservatives have a hidden agenda. Yes. They have a hidden austerity agenda. And it is time for us all to ask ourselves, what would they cut? Would they cut childcare? I think so. Would they cut dental care? I think so. Would they cut our housing plan? There she would.
The Honourable Member from Regina Capel.
It's Canadians who are cutting back as they've seen their paychecks devalued and prices skyrocket. But it's not just the carbon tax that the NDP and Liberals are hiking. The new tax hike that the government is announcing today will hit the middle class hard. In the middle of a housing crisis, they're raising taxes on carpenters and roofers. In fact, the Canadian Federation of Apartment Associations said this, quote, "The capital gains increase will discourage the construction of new rental homes for Canadians." Why is the government's response to the housing crisis punishing the people who actually build the homes?
Right.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I am really glad to hear the Conservatives talk about housing because last week we made a very important announcement on housing. Last week we announced that amortizations for first-time home buyers and everyone buying new builds will be extended to 30 years. That is going to help young Canadians make the dream of home ownership a reality, and it will get more homes built faster. And I am shocked that the Conservatives are opposed to this essential measure.
The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable. After 9 years of this Liberal Prime Minister, whom the Bloc wants to keep alive this week, the number of students in Quebec are ever more using food banks. The student federations have said it. Students find it hard to feed themselves. Over 80,000 went to food banks, 4 times more than 10 years ago. Instead of continuing to starve our students, will the Prime Minister and his Bloc Québécois lieutenant allow Quebecers to vote immediately to cut taxes for a common-sense government? The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. This is absolute nonsense, Mr. Speaker. The member says how difficult people are finding it to feed their children, how there's too many children who go to school on an empty stomach. last week, his Conservative leader said that such ideas are bureaucratic, including in his own riding. It's bureaucratic to give children food so that they can't go to school on an empty stomach. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. I invite the Liberals to look at the situation in its face. The Bloc should flee because housing and food costs have doubled in the last few years. We're paying $1 billion in interest on our debt every week, all because of the $500 billion of inflationary spending that the Bloc supported. Everyone has been paying for this. Does the Prime Minister, supported by Le Bloc Québécois, understand that enough is enough and that we can no longer afford his incompetence? The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. Let us talk about incompetence. Incompetence is stopping children from being able to eat in the morning and stopping MPs from supporting kids who have to go to school with an empty stomach. There are food banks in his riding. Will he go there to explain to them why it's bureaucratic to stop children from eating their fill in the morning?